Good day. Thank you to President Bu of Youngsan University and Professor Munich of the Taekwondo Department for inviting me to take part in this International Taekwondo Conference. I am delighted to join in this conference with my fellow presenters, martial arts scholars and Taekwondo students. I titled my presentation From Decisiveness to Adaptability, the Muhyeong-Principle in ITF Taekwondo. Taekwondo developed from a Japanese karate foundation. Although Taekwondo evolved into a uniquely Korean martial art, it still retains remnants of both technique and philosophy that are rooted in Japanese martial culture. One example is the notion of kime, which refers to the conspicuous full body tension performed by the karateka at the final moment of a technique. The purpose of this full body tension is to make the body into a solid, immovable structure in order to fully transfer the technique's force into the target and also to prevent negative effects from any rebound force. The term kime literally translates as decision and connotes firm decisiveness. In other words, kime suggests an unwavering execution of the technique decided upon. The isometric concentration of the whole body's musculature in kime is a manifestation of the karateka's decisive technique. This unwavering decisiveness also manifests in the formation of the attacking or blocking tool. When performing hand techniques in karate, the practitioner will keep the hand shaped the same from start to finish. For instance, if the technique to be performed is a punch, the hand will remain in a fist shape from beginning to end. Similarly, if the technique is to be an open-handed technique, the hand will be kept in the appropriate open-handed shape throughout the execution of the movement. This consistency in the form of the hand reflects the unwavering decision implied by kime. Within the broader context of Japanese martial arts, one may understand kime as a technical manifestation of another idea found in some Japanese martial arts, including karate: one punch, certain death, or the more euphemistical expression, one punch, certain victory. Taekwondo inherited a version of kime from karate, but in Taekwondo it is known as jipjung, which translates as concentration or focus. The term is based on the hanja that literally translates as gathering everything together to a central point. As such, Taekwondo's jipjung is employed to concentrate every muscle of the body towards the appropriate tool at the proper time onto the opponent's vital spot. In Gugi Taekwondo, the style of Taekwondo under the auspices of the Gugi-wan, the shape of the attacking or blocking tool is also predetermined. In other words, a punch will start in the shape of a fist, and the knife hand strike will also be in the knife hand shape from the start of the technique. While this physical manifestation of kime is still visible in the performance of Taekwondo's fundamental movements, for instance in Pumse, the associated Japanese philosophy of a decisive, victorious action is somewhat lost in translation, as the Korean word jipjung doesn't have the same decisive connotation as in the case of the Japanese word kime. The ITF style of Taekwondo also retained the kime or jipjung principle of a whole body isometric contraction at the final moment of the technique. However, the predetermined formation of the attacking or blocking tool has been removed from ITF Taekwondo's techniques. In ITF Taekwondo, techniques must initiate from a state of relaxation. Unnecessary tension of muscles while performing a movement is strongly discouraged, as engagement of antagonist muscles is believed to negatively affect the speed and resultant power of the technique. Therefore, in performing a hand technique, the hand is kept relaxed and without any predetermined form. It is only concentrated into its appropriate shape moments before impact. For example, When performing a punch, the hand remains in no form, neither flexed open nor tightly clenched closed, and only concentrates into a fist as the hand nears the target. Similarly, when performing a knife hand strike, the hand is relaxed into the hand's natural unengaged shape and not prematurely opened into the knife hand shape. The hand will only stiffen into this striking tool prior to contact with the target and during the moment of jipjung. While the full body tension and the moment of contact with the target does have a designation in Taekwondo, namely jipjung, thus far the relaxed methodology and associated no-form shape of the hand does not have any official nomenclature in Taekwondo, apart from general descriptions such as relaxed or lightly clenched and not tightly clenched, etc. With this presentation then, I wish to formally designate the Sino-Korean word Muhyeong, which literally translates as no form or without form, implying something that is intangible or amorphous. This is a fitting description for this relaxed no-form aspect in ITF Taekwondo techniques before they are morphed into a recognizable tool such as a knife hand or fist shape. Inversely, the word yuhyong, meaning physical form or tangible shape, can be applied to describe the attacking or blocking tool when it has formed into its appropriate shape moments before and during the final jipjung climax. Of course, it goes without saying that when we describe the hand as being in a state of muyeong, we do not mean it literally as if the hand is vaporous. A hand in a state of muyeong simply means that it is naturally relaxed and not formed into a blocking, attacking or grappling tool. Contrariwise, a hand in a state of yuhyong is formed into a specific tool. Apart from its primary function as a method for relaxing antagonist muscles, the muhyeong notion is also ripe for further interpretation. In karate, kime as a decisive action implies that once the karateka decides on the technique, they ought to be fully committed in its execution. Hence, the shape of the attacking or blocking tool is predetermined and remains the same from start to finish. It would be considered wrong within the karate context to change one's mind halfway through the execution of the technique. As such, kime in karate resonates with a similar idea in several Japanese martial arts, namely sutemi. A literal translation of sutemi is abandoning the body, suggesting self-sacrifice. The implication is a total commitment to every technique without thought of any repercussions. On the other hand, the Muhyeong-Principle in ITF Taekwondo frees the practitioner from such predetermination. Since the attacking or blocking tool only fully manifests in a proper shape at the final moments, the Taekwondo practitioner is theoretically free to adapt the technique as the situation changes. Therefore, it is quite acceptable within the Taekwondo context to change a technique strategically. A punch may become a back fist strike. A front kick may suddenly change into a turning kick. Those familiar with Taekwondo sparring will immediately recognize this as a common strategic feature of Taekwondo. For instance, kicks are often adapted mid-execution to adjust for the opponent's movements or to exploit new openings in their guard. Furthermore, this helps to prevent a level of telegraphing, because even when the movement has started, the exact technique is not fully knowable until near the end of its execution. The Taekwondo practitioner may also decide to abort a technique that is already in motion, rather than a sutemi-style total commitment to a technique as is expected in karate. I believe that this Muhyeong concept is consistent with some East Asian philosophical ideas that have a long historical association with East Asian martial arts theory. First, the Taoist concept of Taiji or taeguk in Korean, and its associated yinyang principle, or eumyang. There are already several approaches for understanding the eumyang principle in Taekwondo. For instance, Stephen Kappener argues for interpreting the eumyang principle as full and empty space. Kappener argues that during a Taekwondo sparring match, the dynamic interchange of the competitor's limbs in motion and inevitable appearance and disappearance of viable targets for attack represents full and empty spaces. An understanding of such full and empty spaces allow for both strategic sparring application and philosophical interpretation. Furthermore, some Korean scholars promote the idea of gangyu, meaning hardness and softness, as an application of the eumyang principle. Gangyu can basically be understood as those particular binary aspects of Taekwondo, such as offensive and defensive techniques. My proposal of form, yuhyong, and no form, Muhyeong, in ITF Taekwondo is likewise an exploration of the eumyang principle. If a Taekwondo technique has a moment of deliberate high tension, or jipjung, it only makes sense that it should also have the opposite, namely a phase of deliberate relaxation, yinyang, and fluidity. Similarly, since a technique is only recognized as such at the final moment when it expresses into its clearest form, it goes without saying that it also has a preformed or amorphous or muhyeong state. This muhyeong idea, which allows a practitioner a level of liberty to adapt a technique naturally according to changing circumstances, resonates with yet another concept from Taoist philosophy, namely muwi, or wuwei in Chinese, which translates as non-doing or no effort. Within Taoist teaching, this doesn't literally mean to not do anything, but rather not to force a situation and instead allow things to unfold naturally. Many martial arts have taken up the muwi principle to mean that a good technique is one in which the greatest result is achieved with the least amount of effort. This principle of efficacy directly relates to the biomechanical purpose of Muhyeong, which is to ensure that only the necessary agonist muscles are engaged in their proper sequence and the antagonist muscles are appropriately relaxed, subsequently resulting in the most efficacious movement. Furthermore, in Taoist thought, mu does not mean mere nothingness. Instead, it relates to the void, the place of incipience, which contains all potentialities. For the trained martial artist, this connects to that spontaneous, reflexive, and masterful bringing forth of the right technique at the right time. In other words, the most appropriate technique hitting the best target at just the right moment. This is different from the kime concept that implies an active decision. From a Taoist paradigm, the most appropriate technique is not decided, but rather allowed to naturally and spontaneously manifest without conscious thought. Just as the hand can be described as in a state of Muhyeong, so the whole person, body and mind may manifest Muhyeong. This is not conceived as a structureless body and unconscious mind, but rather as a body filled with potentiality and a mind open to all options. Taoist and Buddhist meditative practices call this mental state mushim. Mushim suggests a mental state of no-mindedness, free from distracting thoughts or emotions. This allows defensive and counter-attack techniques to occur reflexively, without thinking. This Muhyeong state is of course a transitional state from a state of potentiality to the Yuhyong state of actuality. As this transition happens, the various potentialities or technique possibilities become fewer and fewer until finally only one possibility remains. When, from the vast sea of potential techniques, the most appropriate technique is actualized, perfection occurs. Or as Kapner puts it, bringing order to chaos through skillful technique. Of course, for this to occur, the practitioner must have physically mastered various potentialities, which is a great arsenal of efficacious techniques. Only then can the most appropriate technique come forth without conscious thought or physical restraint. As such, muwi, as a philosophical extension of Muhyeong, does not mean no effort in training, but rather so much training and mastery of techniques that when a technique is performed, it seems effortless, which is, as all martial artists know, the difference between the novice and the expert. Thank you.